Welcome to Smiles and Cents, where we talk dentistry, money, business, and life outside the chair. I'm Ian with Dental Wealth Partners, and as a reminder, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as investment advice. With that, let's get started. All right, welcome back to Smiles and Cents, everybody. We've got Dr. Richard Lowe back on the scene, and I love it. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm good. I forgive me the treadmill walking here, but like I'm just trying to get my steps in. We're gonna be talking about time and money, and I'm like trying to overlap time
Come
with my
on.
clients. And to be like I'm at like over 20,000 steps for the day, and I'm just trying to push for
Yeah,
30.
I
So
love it.
if
Dude,
anyone needs,
20,000, that's pretty impressive.
well, I went for a run in the morning, and then just like every call, there's a dentist in Next Level Fathers in my group who
Yeah,
bought a walking treadmill, and he's got it at his desk, standing desk at his office. He takes his like patient notes and all of that. It's good. You can sneak them in there.
yeah, I love that. Man, you got to see who, you got to do some type of competition, like who can get the most steps at Next Level Fathers
Totally.
and, and get behind that. Yeah, I think last time, I mean, this was a couple months ago, but I started running again and it's been awesome. It's great to track miles and steps and all that stuff, and it really makes a difference. But, anyways, man, glad to have you back on. And of course, we're going to talk about money and time, just that relationship. And there's nothing primarily overly planned here, just so the listeners know, but there is such a relationship that a lot of people don't understand between time and money. And I know, Richard, you've seen it, I've seen it. Sometimes people really understand my time is money and it's valuable. And oftentimes those people are the ones who are delegating out aspects of their lives to other people. But then there's the other concept, and we'll dive into both of these, but there's the other aspect where what I really want to dive into is the spending habits that people have and having them understand that is your time, right? If you work for a whole week and you make $5,000 that week, and then you turn around and blow $5,000 on whatever it may be, that's equivalent to a week of your life. And so want to bounce that off of you, get your ideas, and yeah, let's just dive into it.
Yeah, this I love this topic in multiple ways. Number one, Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. Alex
Come on.
Hormozy talks about this. They're like two of my favorite business mentors of like from lowest cost to highest cost with like hiring a cleaning person on the bottom end and eating out when it makes sense rather than making your own food, all the way up to private jet on the
Hmm.
high end of saving time. But there's this sweet spot where as a dentist, like private jet, like PJ is not in the dentist realm, and nor do I think flying an airplane as a commuter as a dentist is a wise idea if you've got to practice in another state. I've heard of too many
Yeah,
dentists
yeah.
dying commuting between practices.
It's not worth it. Not worth the risk.
Not worth it. It's when you have patients on the other side who if you weather screws everything up, you have to cancel and the
Mm.
whole team and all this stuff. So I think people push their limits. Like when you treat it as I have to get there, and the stakes of treatment on the other side of it, I think just escalated a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyways, this using money to outsource things in your life that if you don't enjoy are just such significant ROI to buy back your
Mhm.
time in those ways. And I want to hear your opinion, the things that you've done, that dentists,
Yeah.
their clients of yours have done. And then on the other end of it, there's a book that, like what you just said, called Your Money for Your Life.
Yeah.
And this book talks about how if you calculate, okay, how many hours do I work a week? But not only how many hours, but how many hours do I have to spend commuting and like prepping for work or rearranging my life around work, and then translate that into post-tax discretionary dollars that you end up getting from trading your life for money, and then calculate what is my true, how much it takes me an hour. In an hour, what do I truly earn post tax, all of that, when you factor in the full work costs, including even breaks at lunch, including all of that before and after time, and the things when you stay late at the practice, when you're working on your admin days, not just your productive hours.
Yeah.
um, that number, you can end up with a final number that is a very concrete number of, okay, if I go spend $150 or $500, whatever it is, that is an hour of my life. And the
Yeah.
number is
That's
usually
right.
smaller than you'd realize when you really are looking at post-tax discretionary income, it changes how you spend and how you look at purchases and things. And some people, and I'm sure you've seen this in clients, some people need encouragement spending because they
Hmm.
never spend on anything, and other people need a wake-up call of, oh crap, like
Yeah.
money's going out the door as fast as it's coming in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
And it's really interesting, like overarching theme too, right? Where it's like, okay, we can always make more money, right? As a practitioner, as a dentist, like there's the ability where a dentist can always make more money, right? Even if you're a bad dentist, somebody's going to hire you typically. And there's this alternative asset that you don't know how much time you really have. It's the only asset that once you spend it, it's gone. You can't make more of it. And it's finite without understanding when you're going to run out of time, right? When do you stop breathing? When does your, family not get to enjoy you on the vacation because, hey, mom or dad's no longer here? And the same is true with our kids, even like in other relationships. And I'll kind of, I don't want to digress too far, but a couple years back, there was a guy that I talked to, and he was fostering a child, and I thought it was awesome. And I was talking with him, and he's like, "Yeah, it's really special because we don't know how much time that we have with this child, and so we're giving all our heart and soul to him every waking minute, every day that we possibly can." And then I kind of paused there for a second and I just asked him the question. And this is like a really insightful guy. And I asked him, well, isn't that true for everybody? And then
yep,
it was like this concept of it is. And so I think for those of us that have elderly parents or grandparents, like there's an understanding, and I forget who the quote is from. It might even be, I'm not really sure, so I'm not going to just generally, but it's not, this is not an original thought. But the thought process was if you have an elderly parent or grandparent or something of that nature, and you only visit them twice a year and they're, let's call it 80 years old, they might only live another 5 years, right? And so you're in your head, you're thinking, well, I've got 5 more years with them. And really, you've got 10 more visits with them.
yeah,
Right. And that makes it where it's like, hey, I need to prioritize this a little bit more. And this is now urgently important if I want to spend time with them. And so I think that's kind of the heart of the discussion is like budgeting, being aware of your time and where you spend it is ultra important. And I want to dig into that. But I think it's also just philosophically, okay, we've only got so much time. And eventually, no matter what you believe, like it's going to run out, right? Like I don't think there's anyone that's ever escaped death other than depending on what you believe, Jesus Christ. And then
right,
like other what than that, it's like, hey, we all die. And would love to hear your thoughts on that too, Richard, and just what you've seen in your space, like
yeah.
just personally and coaching people.
I actually think of September. So in Indiana, like I went to high school here, but like I was born in Canada, lived in Utah for a while, out in the Mountain West where there was mountains. I freaking love
Yeah.
mountains. I love hiking. Indiana is just flat and rainy, and when I moved here, I hated it. As an adult, I actually like it for so many reasons. I love it as a business owner, as a dentist. I love it as a parent of children who like they're in good schools and with good friends, with good values, and there's just low cost of living. It's
Yeah.
good, but don't love the rain. My favorite month in Indiana is September because it's just on average, that is like the 70s, not a ton of rain like there is in the spring. And you don't get too many of these days where it's just perfect weather out there. And so I think about like
Yeah.
how many Septembers do I have with my kids
Mm.
until they're gone? And we tried a no screen September last year
Come
and
on.
we made it about a week and a half or maybe even less than that. Unfortunately, my wife had sciatica. She had a pinched nerve and her back and it like progressed so severely and she ended up having to have back surgery. But we got very
Oh
quickly to
man.
the point where we're like, okay, we need the kids to have TV so that Christine can function and we can entertain them. But this year, I think we're going to try it again. We haven't talked about it yet, but my
Yeah.
goal is let's just get outside. Let's appreciate this time because otherwise, I'm on screens and devices. Our kids are on screens and devices. As much as I try and be present, like there's always work stuff. I'm
Yeah.
somehow a dental influencer on social media, so I have to make content and I'm having conversations in the DMs with dentists who are burned out or struggling or whatever. And so that can creep into every nook and cranny of the day.
Mm.
So this intentionality of like guarding our time
Yeah.
and not wasting our time is It's like the most important conversation, but we defer happiness, we defer like stuff for the future, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it slips by. But I do want to get super tactical right up front of
Yeah.
like
Yeah. How do
things.
we actually do that? What are some things
Yeah.
operationally to implement?
And I actually think this is something that my wife and I, we are not budgeting. I'm well, and I'm actually using AI like Claude Code and
Yeah.
ChatGPT Codex where it can do more and plug into things. I've plugged it into Monarch and it's
Yeah.
helped me to restructure my budget. But I'm going to create a separate category for things that buy back our time. And to think about that category very differently of okay, of all the stuff we're going to cut if we needed to cut or areas that we can save, let's look at those. But
Mhm.
I actually want to increase the spending in the budget category of things that buy back our time. So
Yeah. Meaningful like vacations, like
no,
memory
I mean
type
like
things.
lawn care, I mean like house cleaner,
Okay. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
stuff that Christine and I have to get done around the house and
Yeah.
like dog
Just this.
cleaning and just stuff like that where can I save time, the
Yeah.
limited time that I have at home before and after work, the weekends, and not have to do some of these things that can be outsourced. And Alex Hermosi talked about when he started Gym Launch and his gym, his Chipotle budget, his accountant looked at his Chipotle budget and he's like, you
This
spent
is
like
insane.
$1,000 on more on Chipotle. That is so much time I saved prepping meals, cleaning
Yeah.
dishes, like all of these things. He's like, I don't feel bad about that.
Mm.
And the one that I want to do, but I have not yet done, is like a local meal prepping person. So hire someone
Yeah.
to go buy some chicken, buy potatoes, buy veggies, and twice a week chop up and season and grill a bunch of veggies and potatoes and some chicken. And then, like in portion size of this exact size, weigh these out so they're all like
Yeah.
measured and I can just like
Based on what you're nutritionally trying to do and like
exactly
aiming
based
for
on my
gain weight.
goals. And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's one that is like my next edge.
Yeah.
Keep not having time to find this person. I
Yeah.
posted on a local Facebook group and I got a bunch of responses and then it just kind of got lost in the sauce. But like that's the kind of thing where as dentists we have options and there are things that
Mm.
we can offload and they're worth it. I think similarly when it comes to your dental practice, what are you delegating to your team? What are you
That's
delegating
right.
to professionals? And understanding that like your production per hour in the dental office, I do think there's a big difference between being at home and not feeling like this is my dental office and I want to delegate to everyone else all of the house cleaning and not
Mhm.
teach my kids how to clean and expect my spouse to do these things because I'm so busy. I think there's an importance of teaching work and all of that. So I'm not saying offload everything, but especially when it comes to the dental office, absolutely everything that
Yeah.
can be delegated and done to an 80+% as good as you quality should be delegated and handed off, except for just the absolute essentials that only you could do.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to
100%.
hear from you, your perspective. What have you done
Yeah.
personally? What have your clients done to actually buy back their time?
Yeah. I would agree with all of the top things that you just said, right? I think delegation inside of a dental office, or really even for myself, like anything that I only can specifically do, at least to a 80, 90% efficiency or like competency level, like everything else I'm delegating, right? And for us, like we're in a little bit different process than a dental office, but like we're trying to systematize and get rid of a lot of the friction that either in the client onboarding phase or whatever that may be, right? Just trying to make it where our administrative team isn't having to go back 25 times doing something manually versus, hey, can we automate this and make this more fluid? But I think from the dental side, like there's a ton of things that people can do, even to the extent of, hey, you've got somebody who is going to pick up the phones on the weekends, but you're not doing that because you don't trust them to pick it up or like whatever it may be, right? Or just I've heard of so many crazy things where somebody's like off hours aren't their actual off hours because they've not chosen to either hire somebody to release that from them or implement tech. I think on the personal side, you mentioned like lawn care and all these other things, like 100% I agree with that. And there's an art, and I've actually walked somebody through this like several times, clients, where there's a level of like monetary benefit, like when you're in dental school. If you have a home, like you're probably cutting your own grass. Like you're not taking out student loans to pay somebody to do your own like lawn care, essentially, most times. Then when you are an associate or you own your own practice, now you have the ability to afford to say, hey, I don't want to spend time cutting my grass. Like I've got other things to do that are more important. But then you reach this arc where it's like, okay, I've got money and now I get to actually choose what I get to do. And I actually really enjoy being someone who enjoys doing as much artwork on their lawn as possible. Like I have a client of mine and friend who he has made his front lawn into a putting green, which I think is so cool. And clearly he's like spending way more time than he probably would need to if he didn't
Right.
enjoy doing that. Right. And so I think there's the the intention is with any engagement is to how do I achieve the most favorable life that I want within reason, right? We talked about your kids need to learn how to do chores and they probably need to see you do your own chores and things of that nature, but just having autonomy of choice, right? And so if I believe that, doing whatever this may be, that is not moving me closer to my goal or closer to my family, then I probably need to outsource it or get rid of it. And I think for me, just so everyone's aware, and I think this is probably for everyone, more of like the financial planning or coaching or, whatever services space where our brain is really what we're leveraging. A lot of people early on in my career used to say, hey, look, you need to answer the phone all hours of the night. And that I did that for a time. And then I realized I want to be successful, but I want to be successful on my terms. And there's something that I'm just not willing to sacrifice. And for me, early on in my career, I got up really early before my kids were awake and I worked diligently. And I would even tell clients, hey, I'll meet with you as early as 4 a.m. And that was miserable. But for those people that really needed extra time, we did that. And then the times that my kids were awake, like for breakfast and dinner, those types of things, it was like, okay, I'm not taking any phone calls during this time, no matter what. And it probably slowed my growth to some extent, but there's certain just time that we can't get back with family or especially with like young kids. And that time is way more valuable than somebody can ever pay you, at least in my eyes, right? And everyone has their things, but I want to go into, and I would love your feedback here. Life is super busy. And for the business owner that is working 4, maybe 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, something along those lines. And even if they're not practicing on a Friday, they're probably doing some level of digging into the numbers and sorts. Talk to me about what you've seen on your end for next level fathers. How are practice owners managing? Hey, I still have a great relationship with my spouse. I still have a great relationship with my kids. I'm not letting my health fall by the wayside because the day is finite. We only have 24 hours and it gets really busy really quickly because also you have to sleep 6 to 8 hours on top of that. So dig into that from a practical application. What do you coach people to do and what are you seeing people do successfully?
Yeah, there's studies that show that physicians do better surgeries in the morning than in the afternoon, that you want to be first on the schedule if you're having brain surgery.
Yeah.
And there is a fatigue over the course of the day. And I have found that one of the biggest shifts has been going to bed earlier because nothing I do after 10 p.m. is productive. After 10 p.m., other than connecting with my wife, kids are finally in bed and we get to finally talk and connect. But other than that, I'll look back at midnight and I'm like, I was on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or researching something dumb or AI on my computer. I'm not doing anything good or productive. And all the time I spend staring at screens then affects your sleep. The studies show unequivocally that will affect your sleep. And so dentists who join Next Level Fathers, okay, I'm telling them you have to work out every day, hit your nutrition. You got to find some time for some spiritual work, whether that's meditation or scripture study. If you've got a faith background, if you don't, then lean towards the meditation, some sort of journaling or self-reflection, and some sort of service, even if it's small. And these are these 5 daily habits. And a lot of people are like, I don't have time to do this. If you'll just carve out an extra 30, 40, 60 minutes in the morning and get your selfish work done first, win the morning, win the day, and then you'll be tired enough to go to bed early, and just be really conscious about setting some limits on your phone. I've got an app called Opal. It shuts my phone off at 9:30 p.m. So there's just like, I don't have access. It just like I can't unlock it. It is
Yeah.
like hard locked. I
I've
don't
heard of
have.
other things like Brick is one where you tap your phone and it shuts it off for
Yep.
until you tap it again, basically.
Totally. There's like all sorts of these solutions. Create some barriers for yourself and some the thing I like about Opal is that it's automatic and you can set these really custom schedules. So just at 9:30 p.m. until 5 a.m., my phone, all of social media, YouTube, like anything distracting for me is completely inaccessible. And then go to bed early, wake up earlier because once you're a parent, the evenings are for your family, the day is for your dental practice, and your only selfish time is really in the morning. And if you don't prioritize, it's like rocks, pebbles, sand. The rocks are your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. And if you can just fit those in first thing, then you have momentum and you have energy, you have this sense of well-being in the day. And so it's trading that time in the evening. I'm also the most likely to binge and eat bowls of cereal at 11 p.m. It's just all my
Little
poor
cookie
decision
dough
making.
and ice cream, throw it in a bowl, heat it up. It's yeah. I've done that once or twice at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, like we
Yeah.
just get stupider as the day goes on. So
Yeah.
why not trade the least effective hours of the day for when we're our sharpest and get the work done that we're just like never going to regret. You're never going to
That's right.
regret waking up a little bit earlier, working out, recentering yourself. And you can stack it. You can do, I'll listen to some Bible study while I'm working out or going for a run in the
Yeah.
morning. And then while I'm driving to work, I'll do some journaling, voice to text. Like you don't have to have this perfect, ideal little pristine morning ritual with a cold plunge
Yeah.
and sauna time. Like
Yeah.
you still got to be efficient with it.
Yeah.
But
Record a podcast while on a treadmill.
I mean, here's
Yeah.
the thing. If anyone's watching this, it's just us talking. Just put your YouTube face down so you don't have to watch my bobbing
Ex-
head.
No, I love this. But yeah, I think those are like really, I think those are, and this is me talking just my own experience. I think those are really easy ideas and theories. And then sometimes theory takes a physical coach or accountability system or something of that nature. Like there's, for me, I'm not going to speak to anyone else because I can't express exactly what they're going through. I've talked to clients early in the mornings, but for me, I know I've been growing and building a business. And I think this is probably this last year, we've done a ton from podcast, book, all these other things. And a lot of times I would steal that time away from myself and say, oh, I need to get into the office super early so I can do all these things. And there really is a level of, yeah, there's only so much time in the day and you can only do so much. And it comes to you have to prioritize that. And you have to understand if you're not putting these things first, you eventually are going to lose sight of what is, let me actually say, not lose sight. You'll keep in sight what's still important, but you won't be able to attain it because your health starts slipping, right? A lot of studies that I've read shows if you're not working out in your 30s and 40s, you may not feel it in your 30s and 40s, but you see it and feel it in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that's your longevity. And that's a real scary thought, right? And I'm not sure how you are, but man, when my kids are teenagers and hopefully in their early 20s, I still want to be able to compete good, but still want to be able to like, okay, dad can still shoot, you know?
Yeah. They shouldn't until they're like 18. You don't want them outscoring dad.
Yeah.
You still want to beat them. You just want them
Yeah.
you want them to be a little angry. They're like, freak, I still want to beat dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you
Uh
go to the gym every day, every minute? What's the deal?
yeah.
Do you still want a six pack? No, dude. I just want to be able to beat my kid in one on one. Like,
And I have girl dad. I'm a girl dad, so I have three daughters. I
yeah.
want that boy who comes to pick up my daughter on a date to be like, oh crap, Abby's
Yeah.
dad is a little bit jacked. I didn't
Yeah. I better
like
not step out of line here.
yeah, I want them
Yeah.
to have a little fear
Yep.
as they face me and pick her up and I have a conversation with them. There's just this discipline and self-confidence and respect that you have to earn. I'll also say with time and you talking about this season of building, writing a book of other things. A lot of times I just recently was talking about this where a dentist should set a boundary for when I'm going to go home and tell the
That's
team
right.
that, tell your spouse that. But once in a while, if you're just swamped, like maybe you've got a day where you tell your wife, you tell your team, you tell your spouse, you either go in early or you stay in late and say, hey, just tonight, I'm going to stay in late and get caught up on this and this. So then it's not stressing me out. But this is not my routine and this is not creeping
Yeah.
into multiple days. And we hit seasons. And I think it's just as important in this idea of prioritizing our health and working out and eating well. There's also a bare minimum version of these
Yeah.
things that we can fall back to. So maybe you're not getting a 30-minute workout at the gym, but maybe you've got a 10-minute body weight routine that you do
Mhm.
at lunch at the office. You get a pull-up bar and you do
Yeah.
some push-ups and some pull-ups and go for a walk so that you've got there's a ceiling and a floor. And I
Yeah.
find that so many of us are perfectionists with just all or nothing. If I'm not getting that full workout in, I'm not going to do anything. But if you can instead go back to, I'm not going to miss, I'm going to do something for my health every day, even if it's a 5 to 10 minute workout. I know that's not going to move the needle on changing my health overall, but consistency is going to move the needle more than anything else. And so not letting one day miss slip into two, slip into five, slip into 2 months. And same thing with your spiritual health is like, okay, can I get at least a little bit of something in my life? Can I do a
Yeah.
little bit of meditation, even if you're doing it on the road with your eyes open, which is what I've done before, or getting some prayer in, getting some scripture study in, sneaking that in, having a minimum to fall back to, even when you're in that season of maybe just chaos.
Yeah.
I find it really helps to not feel so defeated about it all.
Yeah, I like that because I've seen from talking with people, and you've experienced this in real situations, and you this is what you do day to day, and you went through it yourself. But from my perception, a burnout seems to come when there's a lack of alignment with somebody's identity of, hey, this is who I am and who I want to be, versus here's who you actually are, and then what's happening, right? And so if it's like, hey, I'm a good dad, I'm a good husband, I'm diligent business owner and staying fit and all these different things, but it's like, hey, a lot of that stuff isn't lining up. That's to me where burnout really starts to settle in, because it's just this, it creates mental chaos. And so I agree with you 100%. There's a floor and there's a ceiling, and I found that, at least for me, when I am understanding if work is going a little bit overboard and I go home anyways, there's an extent where I just go home and I'm not mentally present because I'm trying to hang out with my kids or hang with my wife, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh crap, I've got all these things to do before tomorrow morning," and it's not even enjoyable. And thankfully, my wife is understanding of that, and we've had that conversation. It's like, "Hey, exactly what you're saying. As long as it's within certain boundaries and it's not a every day or every week thing. If you need to stay late, hammer some stuff out, go do it, because then you'll be present for the rest of the week," kind of thing.
I've even recently, I've kind of built a system with sleep around that too, where my goal is to wake up 5 a.m. every day. And
Mhm.
I've recently read a study that having the same wake up time, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be early or later, but just the same, even through the weekends, is actually one of like a massive predictor on like long-term health. And so like massively fluctuating wake up times is really bad for you if
Interesting.
certain days of the week. So just choosing a time that you can stick with every day and committing to that. But with
Yeah.
that, we've got three daughters that we put to bed at night. I've got my toddler who wants me to put her to bed, and then my 11-year-old, and then my 12-year-old is like a late owl. And so sometimes it takes
Mm.
forever. And so sometimes getting to bed later. And I've been diagnosed with bipolar 2, which like a lot of people are like, what does that mean? What does that look like? But one of the things with that is there's insomnia, where if you episodes trigger insomnia triggers episodes. So I have to take my sleep very seriously. And
Yeah.
I've got like an Aura ring to track my deep sleep and REM and all of that. But we have this agreement of if I have a night with under 5.5 hours of sleep, the next night I'm going to go to bed after our 3-year-old. So I'm going to get the 3-year-old down. I'm just going to pass out early. So
Yeah.
then I don't have 2 days in a row of just like stacking sleep deprivation. And that way, like, there's this, we've agreed on a system. So that way, I'm not like every night, I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I just got to go to bed. Hun, we're not going to connect. We're not going to talk. I'm just out of here. But
Yeah, there's like a practical input before it's like, hey, this is difficult. But I love that like open communication of, hey, like this is what I need to stay within like my successful zone. And there's parameters that you and your wife have communicated, right? And it's like, okay, we obviously want Richard to be the best and for as a parent, really, and any mom or dad, when the parent is at their best, like it makes the household go so much smoother, right? Like I know for me, like when I notice my wife is like overworked or something of that nature, like just kids are running her ragged, which funny enough happens more in summer than any other time,
Oh
probably.
my goodness. So ready for the summer to be done here.
Man, it's I like thank God for all the stay-at-home spouses, but man, like I wouldn't be able to do it. Like I would struggle. Like I love my kids to death and like I really enjoy doing that, but I also like going to a quiet office where I'm not getting screamed at for not pouring enough apple juice or something like that. But anyways, the like there's got to be a pulse that we kind of check. Like just how your ring system is like, right, like there's got to be a pulse that we're checking with each other, and this is probably also dovetails into like teammates and people that are on our staff, that there's got to be a pulse in seasons in which we kind of say, okay, there's not only for ourselves but also for them and our spouses or whoever, that's like, okay, let's take a little bit of break, let's recoup and get rewired and refreshed. But so we're kind of getting towards the end of our time here, like time and money time. So I want to ask you a question, Richard, because this is probably one that a lot of younger, successful entrepreneurs face. And you can punt it. If you don't want to answer it, go ahead and punt it. But if you had the ability, if I said, hey, let's call it $10 million, $10 million in your 40s, walk away, never work another day in your life, and you can choose to do what you do, but you can never make another dime, or continue to work with potentially infinite upside, but you have to continue to work, and let's call it 45%, 50% of that is things you don't like doing.
This is funny because this is less of a hypothetical than you would think, because I had a company that at some point will sell for life-changing money that I couldn't stick around for. And
Yeah.
we talked about as a partnership, like how much money all of us wanted to make. And we sat
You got to
around
be
and
able to walk away.
I was like, give me 10 to 20 million. I don't know what to do with that kind of money. I'm golden. Like
Yeah.
people had ambitions for more. And in the process of building this dental group, denture and implant dental group, I burned out and I had to tap out and walk away early. And so
Yeah.
there will be some point in the next year or two where this might sell. And like I might have a very real dollar
Wow.
amount of money that I could have had at this age, at this point, if I had
Yeah.
not crashed and burned the way that I did.
Which I
And
love that you're in real time, you're processing this. This is a conversation I've had with a couple others, but I did not know you were working through this right now. So
ah,
this is interesting.
this thought has cropped up multiple times this week of like, I'm going to right now I have to record Instagram reels to publish to reach more dentists and help find burnt out and successful dentists who want to join Next Level Fathers, my men's group.
Yeah.
And like it's uncomfortable recording videos. It's uncomfortable putting myself out there on social media. And there's parts of it I don't enjoy. Compared to dentistry, maybe people will be like, I would love to record reels, but dentistry is easier for me.
Yeah.
But I actually think for me, as an entrepreneur, I've just always been an entrepreneur. I'm an Enneagram 3 for anyone who's familiar with the Enneagram system of there's 9 different types, but 3 is the achiever. You just are always like setting the next goal. And our couples therapist is like the worst thing you could do for a 3 is give them a bunch of money because that's the game, that's the score. And if you don't have to play the game anymore,
Start
not as
backsliding and not achieving potentially.
it's not as fun. I think there's something to having a score that counts, and other people couldn't disagree more. Okay, I just want to retire as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But right now, like, I love my work. I love working with dentists as a group and pushing ourselves. And I think that a part of me would take my foot off the gas if
Yeah.
I had 10 million in the bank. And I wouldn't work as hard to find more guys who are struggling. And like, it's good for me. And it's good to have things that we don't want to do and to learn to
Yeah.
lean into them. Because even people who have a ton of money, there are still stressors and parts of their life that suck. There are people who have a lot of money and are miserable. So it's not the solver of everything.
It's definitely not. Man, I can tell you from sitting down with clients and friends and the ones who have achieved that level of wealth. And the conversation typically is, and I would probably say, Richard, I think you would find yourself in this category, is you do have to redirect, right? There's this interesting idea that, hey, retirement is this, I now just do nothing but pleasure and just kick my feet up, watch TV, and go on vacation endlessly. But usually, what ends up happening, at least from my experience, the people that still want to be purposeful and still want to achieve, which a lot of dentists are achievers to some extent, maybe not the personality, but they're, hey, I want to drive, I want to go, and I want to
Yeah.
pursue something. There's a redirection of that. And there's a redirection of, I really want to see my grandkid do like ride a bike this summer. And so like they just go crazy on helping this kid ride a bike, or hey, I really have this church program or charity outreach or whatever it may be. So I think there is a level of redirection, but I love the way you answer that, because there is this idea of, well, if you win the game, now what? Right. And I don't know. It's an interesting dilemma, and I think it's really funny that I just asked it on the fly, and you're dealing with that right now, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's something that every successful dentist should be asking themselves, and I think the hope would be that there'd be some level of, hey, I still want to keep doing what I'm doing. And if the walk away is like, hey, I'd walk away tomorrow, then there probably needs to be a rebalancing of like what the day to day looks like. Right.
Yep.
And not necessarily doing what you're doing per se, like, right.
Right.
Not maybe switching careers altogether. Maybe it gets that far, but more so saying, hey, you originally started this career with the intention to pursue dentistry to then hopefully support the life that you want overall. And if you're not achieving that life that you want overall, there probably needs to be like a urgent, hey, redirect, change what's going on, because you could be dead in a year. Seriously, like there's, God willing, that doesn't happen, but there's a reality to, we don't know how long we're going to live. Life needs to have a purpose, and there needs to be a mission and a vision to it. And if you're just kind of waffling through life, just trying to get through the next day and trying to climb the mountain of the almighty dollar, that's okay. If there's an end goal there, I'd probably still push back and say, I don't know if that's the best thing to do. But I think really at the heart of the conversation is like, why do we make money?
Yeah.
Right? What's the underlying why? And so if your time isn't lining up with your why, and you're just adding more digits to the bank account or whatever it may look like, then I would probably challenge that thought and say, hey, it might be worthwhile to back up and just say, hey, does my life need to look a little bit different? Do I need to contemplate realignment?
And that is, as I've gotten into this, like, okay, I'm going to run the play every day. I'm going to wake up early no matter what. I'm going to work out. I'm going to connect with God. I'm going to journal. I'm going to serve someone that day. And then I'm going to go do meaningful work later that day. And if I won the lottery, I would do the same things.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
going to
that.
wake up and I'm going to run this play in the morning. And then this impatience to be done with work you can start to figure out what's underneath there and start to digest that. I think we should probably wrap this episode up, but this has been awesome. And I think there's questions that I now have. And ironically, I'm looking at buying a dental practice, but talking about how to retire well, that's an interesting question for me to ask you, if figure out whatever our next episode is going to be. But to see those who pull that off successfully and are the happiest, and anyone that you've seen come back to dentistry, I think that's a really interesting question too, is people who walk away, who sell, and then a couple of years later they're back. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's see what we're going to talk about next time.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good strategy and conversation for sure. But anyways, thanks, Richard. Always a pleasure. I'll
This
see you
is great.
soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Smiles and Cents. For more information, resources, and to schedule, visit dentistfinancialplanning.com. This podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered investment, tax, legal, or accounting advice. Any opinions expressed are subject to change and may not reflect the views of affiliated firms. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal, and past performance does not guarantee future results. Please consult your financial, tax, and legal professionals regarding your individual situation.